Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. Eos, she who opens the gates of dawn. Before Helios guided the blazing sun across the heavens, another goddess awakened the world. Long before the first golden rays reached the mountaintops or the sea began to shimmer beneath the morning light, Eos, the rosy-fingered goddess of dawn, rose each day from the edge of Oceanus in the far east. The poet said her saffron robes caught the first colors of morning, turning the heavens into ribbons of pink, amber, and gold as she climbed into her gleaming chariot. With gentle hands, she opened the great gates of heaven, allowing the light to enter the world once more after the long reign of night. Dew gathered across olive groves and wildflowers as she passed. Birds stirred within the cypress trees. Fishermen pushed their boats into quiet waters, and shepherds led their flocks into fresh pastures beneath their growing light. Each sunrise was not simply another morning. It was Eos fulfilling an eternal promise that darkness would never have the final word. Yet the goddess of dawn understood better than most that beauty is often fleeting. The ancient stories tell that Eos fell deeply in love with the mortal prince, Tithonus of Troy, whose kindness and grace captivated even an immortal heart. Desperate never to lose him, she pleaded with Zeus to grant her beloved eternal life. The king of the gods agreed, but in her joy, Eos forgot to ask for eternal youth. As the centuries passed, Tithonus continued living while his body slowly surrendered to age. His hair whitened, his back bent, his voice weakened into little more than a whisper, and eventually he became so frail that some traditions say he transformed in a cicada, forever singing but never finding rest. Though her heart was broken, Eos continued to rise each morning without fail. She could not stop the passage of time nor undo the consequence of one forgotten request. Yet neither grief nor regret prevented her from opening the gates of dawn. Across generations, the Greeks watched the eastern sky bloom with color and remembered that every new day arrived because the goddess faithfully chose to begin again. They praised her as rosy-fingered and golden-throned, titles that appeared again and again in the verses of Homer, celebrating not only her beauty but her constancy. Storms would pass, kingdoms would rise and fall, heroes would win glory before fading into memory, but Eos remained. Each sunrise carried the quiet assurance that life always offers another beginning. Yesterday's failures belong to yesterday. Today's light belongs to everyone willing to greet it. And so, with every crimson horizon painted across the Aegean Sea, the Greeks saw more than the arrival of daylight. They witnessed hope itself stepping gently into the world, one dawn at a time. Story 2. Ushas, bringer of the first light. Long before the warmth of the sun spread across the plains of ancient India, another goddess stirred the world awake. She was Ushas, the radiant goddess of dawn, whose arrival was celebrated in some of the oldest surviving sacred poetry on earth. While the stars still shimmered overhead and darkness lingered along the banks of the Sarasvati and Ganges rivers, the eastern horizon was slowly blushed with crimson and gold, announcing that Ushas had begun her daily journey. The ancient hymns described her as a young woman adorned in brilliant garments, riding a gleaming chariot drawn by shining red horses or ruddy cows whose hooves scattered light across the heavens. As she traveled, the sky itself seemed to awaken beneath her touch. Birds lifted into the air with their morning songs. Lotus blossoms opened upon still waters. Priests prepared for sacred fires. Merchants gathered their goods. Farmers entered the fields, and children stepped from their homes to greet another day. It was Ushas who gently stirred every living creature from sleep, inviting the world to begin again. Yet her gift was never merely the sunrise. She brought possibility. Every dawn offered another opportunity to fulfill one's dharma, the sacred path of righteous living. Yesterday's mistakes belonged to the fading darkness. Today's choices had not yet been written. The ancient seers praised Ushas because she revealed the road ahead, while reminding humanity that life itself is precious, precisely because each sunrise is one fewer than the last. Though she appeared eternally youthful, the hymns quietly acknowledged that every dawn also carries a world one day closer to old age and death. Rather than filling the heart with fear, this truth inspired gratitude. Time was not an enemy to be conquered, but a sacred gift to be used wisely. Ushas herself never clung to the sky. When she had filled the heavens with color and awakened every corner of creation, she gracefully yielded her place to Surya, the mighty sun god, whose blazing chariot would continue the work she had begun. Then, without complaint or hesitation, she disappeared beyond the brightness of the day, knowing that when darkness returned, she would once again be called to open the gates of morning. For thousands of years, poets, the Rig Veda, greeted her with songs of gratitude, marveling that no matter how many generations passed, Ushas never failed in her promise. Kingdoms rose and vanished, rivers changed their course, and countless lives unfolded beneath her light. Yet every morning she returned with the same quiet certainty. To those who watched the eastern sky bloom before sunrise, Ushas became far more than a goddess of dawn. She became the living reminder that renewal is not a single miracle buried somewhere in the past. It is a gift continually offered, one sunrise at a time, to every soul willing to awaken and receive it. Story 3. Aušrinė, the morning star. Before the sun ever climbed above the forests and the lakes of ancient Lithuania, one brilliant light pierced the fading darkness. It was not yet dawn, nor was it still night. Hanging low above the eastern horizon shone the radiant star of Aušrinė, the divine maiden of the morning and the living spirit of the planet Venus. To the Baltic peoples, her appearance was the first promise that daylight was already on its way, while villages still slept beneath thatched roofs and mists drifted over quiet rivers. Aušrinė stepped into the heavens adorned in garments that shimmered like polished silver. Her task was one of preparation. She swept the pathways of the sky, gathered the scattered stars, and welcomed the coming of the sun. Ancient songs tell that she lit the fires of the morning, ensuring that the heavens were ready before Sale, the magnificent sun goddess, began her daily journey across the world. Dew sparkled upon pine needles, cranes stirred among the marshes, and wildflowers slowly opened as the eastern sky brightened beneath her watchful care. Though her work often passed unnoticed, nothing about the coming dawn happened by accident. Every new day began because Aušrinė faithfully prepared its arrival. Yet the old Lithuanian dainos, or folk songs, also remembered that beauty can invite pride and longing. In later traditions, Aušrinė's extraordinary radiance drew the attention of the moon god, Ame-no-Uzume, whose wandering affections eventually disrupted the harmony of the heavens. Some stories tell that Ame-no-Uzume became unfaithful to Sale because of Aušrinė's dazzling brilliance, upsetting the natural order until the thunder god, Perkunas, intervened, striking the moon and forever separating the celestial bodies across the sky. Whether these later tales preserve ancient beliefs or grew through centuries of storytelling, they reflect a truth recognized by every generation. Even the heavens require balance, humility, and faithfulness. Still, Aušrinė herself remained the herald of hope. Every morning she returned before the sunrise, not seeking glory for herself, but quietly preparing the way for another's light. To those who rose before dawn, her brilliant star became a trusted companion. Hunters watched for her above the forests. Travelers found their bearings beneath her gleam. Farmers looked eastward, knowing that where Aušrinė appeared, another day of work, harvest, and life was already beginning. She reminded the Baltic peoples that renewal rarely arrives all at once. It begins with a single point of light breaking through the darkness, almost unnoticed, until the entire horizon is transformed. Long before the world celebrates the sunrise, someone has already been faithfully preparing its arrival. And so, each morning, the first star shining above the sleeping earth became more than a heavenly body. It became the quiet assurance that hope often appears before the dawn itself. Story 4, Ame-no-Uzume, and the dance that brought back the sun. There came a time when the world itself seemed to lose its light. After the storm god Susanoo unleashed destruction across the heavenly realm, his sister Amaterasu, the radiant sun goddess, was overcome with grief and outrage. Turning away from both gods and mortals, she sealed herself inside the great Ame-no-Uzume, the heavenly rock cave, refusing to let her light shine upon the world again. At once the heavens grew dim, day became twilight, crops withered beneath the fading sky, birds fell silent, and the deep chill settled across the land. The kami, the sacred spirits of Shinto, gathered outside the cave, each offering wisdom and strength, yet nothing persuaded Amaterasu to emerge. The world waited in darkness. Then one goddess stepped forward with an idea unlike any the others had imagined. Her name was Ame-no-Uzume, the joyful goddess of dawn, laughter, celebration, and sacred revelry. Rather than pleading with sorrow, she chose delight. She overturned a wooden tub before the cave, climbed upon it, and began to dance. Her movements were bold and playful, her laughter infectious. With every joyful step, the assembled kami burst into louder celebrations. They clapped, sang, stamped their feet, and laughed until the heavens echoed with music. Hidden within the cave, Amaterasu paused. How could there be such happiness while the world remained without her light? Curious, she slowly opened the stone door just enough to look outside. At that very moment, the gods raised a polished mirror before her. For the first time, she saw her own brilliant reflection shining back from its surface, more radiant than anything else in creation. Drawn by both curiosity and wonder, she stepped farther from the cave. In an instant, the strong god, Ame-no-Uzume, pulled the stone entrance closed behind her so that she could never again hide herself away. Sunlight flooded across the heaven and earth. The shadows retreated from forests and mountains. Rivers sparkled once more beneath the sky. Flowers lifted their faces toward the warmth, and every living creature rejoiced as life returned to the world. Yet the victory did not belong to strength alone. It belonged to joy. While others sought to solve darkness through force or argument, Ame-no-Uzume restored the light through celebration, courage, and hope. For countless generations, her dance became a reminder that renewal often begins not with power, but with the willingness to laugh, to create, and to keep dancing even when the world feels consumed by shadow. Every sunrise thereafter carried the memory of the day when a single joyful dance invited the sun herself to return. Daily Thread for July 28th, the Dawn Gods. Every morning the world performs a miracle so familiar that we rarely stop to notice it. The darkness withdraws, colors slowly return to the landscape. Birds find their voices before the sun even crests the horizon, and another day quietly begins. To the ancient peoples of Greece, India, Lithuania, and Japan, this was never an accident of nature. It was a sacred promise renewed with every dawn. Eos threw open the gates of heaven so the world could wake once more, reminding the Greeks that every sunrise offers another beginning, even after heartbreak. Ushas stirred all living things from sleep, inviting each person to step into a new day with purpose, gratitude, and the chance to fulfill the life placed before them. Aušrinė, shining as the morning star, appeared before the sunrise itself, teaching that hope often arrives long before we can fully see the change it promises. And when the world was plunged into darkness because Amaterasu had hidden herself away, it was Ame-no-Uzume who danced with fearless joy until laughter itself called the sun back into the sky. Together, these stories reveal something extraordinary. Renewal is rarely loud. It doesn't usually arrive with thunder or spectacle. More often, it begins quietly, with the first faint glow on the horizon, a single bright star, an opening of a flower, a hopeful decision, or one courageous act that encourages another. Nature understands this rhythm better than we often do. Every spring follows a winter that seemed endless. Every seed disappears beneath the soil before it reaches toward the light. Every sunrise begins while most of the world is still asleep. Our own lives move in much the same way. There are seasons when we feel hidden, discouraged, or uncertain of what comes next. Yet these ancient stories gently remind us that beginnings do not wait until everything is perfect. They begin the moment we choose to rise. Sometimes renewal means forgiving ourselves for yesterday. Sometimes it means taking the first small step after failure. Sometimes it is simply believing that tomorrow deserves our presence, even if today was difficult. Dawn does not erase the night that came before it. Instead, it transforms the horizon until darkness becomes a very backdrop, against which light is most beautifully seen. Perhaps that is why people across the world have greeted the sunrise with prayers, songs, dances, and quiet moments of gratitude for thousands of years. Every morning whispers the same timeless invitation: begin again.